Hello comic book fans, this is your host, Travis Collins, aka Duck Punch, and I'm here with another installment of Duck Punch Comics. We've got 4 more books to read today. Justice League of America number 48, X Factor number 208, Invincible number 74, and Thor number 613. Got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to jump, as we always do, right into the reviews. Up first, Justice League of America, number 48, written by James Robinson, with artwork by Mark Bagley. And so here we are at the conclusion of The Dark Things, the crossover between the Justice League and the Justice Society. And honestly, I was actually kind of disappointed here. Sure, there was some neat stuff here and there, but overall, this was, well, not very good. Alan Scott, or at least the being posing as Alan Scott, turns the full power of the Star Heart on the two teams, while the mind-controlled hybrid of Jade and Obsidian continues to wreak havoc. Jade is able to reassert control and split from her brother, which in turn gives her teammates the time to mount a final assault. Big fight, big revelation, big explosion, and everyone lives happily ever after. Sort of. I've been pretty positive about Robinson for the duration of this story, but he kind of blew it here, I think. One of the things that always irks me in any story is when the final solution is some sort of suddenly remembered fact or suddenly realized addendum that could have easily been inserted earlier in the story and solved everything. You know what I mean. The spell that this wizard hero suddenly remembers that they can cast that is just the right spell. The guy who everyone suddenly remembers is, in addition to being a heavyweight martial arts master, is also a Nobel Prize-winning computer engineer. Things like that. The ending of this book really strikes me that way. If the solution Robinson came up with is what it is, then why didn't he just do that at the beginning? It's the worst kind of sloppy writing I can think of. End of the day, this was a solid story arc with a really bad ending, which in turn mars the entire thing. Bad game, James Robinson. Bad game. Next up, something a little bit more positive. X Factor number 208, written by Peter David, with art by Emanuela Lupacchino, and I hope I pronounced that right. This is a book that has finally gotten off of its butt after 7 issues of really meh to really bad story to get back to the X Factor book I know and love. I liked this one a lot. Now, there are 3 stories going on in this issue. First, there's the confrontation between Monet St. Croix and Layla Miller, who, as usual, is hiding information, along with some new toys, from everyone around her. Number 2, Jamie Madrox and Teresa hunt down a runaway troll for none other than Hela, Norse goddess of the dead. And 3, Rain Sinclair returns to find her ex-boyfriend Richter in the arms of a new lover, who happens to be a dude. Oh, did I mention that she's pregnant? Okay, if this sounds like a soap opera, that's kind of because it is. But unlike most character-driven stories out there, see my comments last week about Avengers Academy, David has done an excellent job of making these characters dynamic enough that I really want to keep reading. They don't feel like stock characters, and they don't feel like they are simply filling a role. They feel like what they are. Damaged people who just all happen to work at the same place, which usually includes no end of nastiness. It also helps that David knows how to balance ongoing plots with character vignettes, instead of picking one or the other. Lupacchino is the weak spot here. I don't know, her art just feels so muted to me. Maybe it's just a personal thing. Like I said at the beginning, this was a really strong issue after 7 really weak ones. It's nice today to see that David is really getting his stride back. Kudos. Alright, next up, from Image Comics, we don't review many of their stuff, so I'm happy to be able to do this one. Invincible number 74, written by Robert Kirkman, with art by Ryan Ottley. I am convinced that, more than any other comic out there, this book reads the same way you watch a television show. And if that analogy holds up, which I hope it does, then this is definitely the episode before the season finale. Now, the Viltrumites, hyper-powerful aliens kinda like Superman, have launched an assault on the capital of the Coalition of Planets. Invincible, his half-brother, and his father show up along with the rest of their allies at the last possible second and turn the tide of the battle, going so far as to force the Emperor of the Viltrumites to flee. The traitor to the Coalition is revealed, but he warns them that the worst is still yet to come. Here's my problem with this series. Taken as a single issue, I have never, ever been overly impressed with it. Again, it's kind of like watching a single episode of a hit serial show, like Lost or like Battlestar Galactica. It usually just doesn't work on its own, in a vacuum. But like those shows, if you go back and read an entire story arc, or if it's a television show, watch an entire season, it's really, really good. That's part of the reason I can never be a fan of Kirkman. All of his books are like that. And it both fascinates me and infuriates me. Otley, on the other hand, has never done a bad piece of art in his entire life. Invincible is the kind of book where you just have to decide that it is worth reading. The trouble is that every time I say I'm going to be done with this series, Kirkman gives me just one more reason to keep reading. It is a little bothersome, but in a slightly good way. This book confuses me. I don't know how else to say that. Last up, Thor, number 613, written by Kieran Gillen, with art this month by Richard Elson. Now, this is the penultimate chapter of Gillen's epic Thor adventure, and definitely lives up to my expectations for this book. Hands down, one of the best reads all month long. Now, Thor is fighting his way through hell to Mephisto's fortress, where the magical sword capable of defeating the evil cannibalistic Disir lays waiting. Meanwhile, Tyr, the Norse god of war, and Hela prepare for the final assault on their stronghold by the Disir, with Tyr finally overcoming his fear and self-doubt to lay some serious smackdown. The real kicker, however, is the ending, which sets up the final battle for the ages. I know I keep saying it in my reviews for this book, and it is sounding, even to me, repetitive and trite and all of that, but the only word to describe this book is epic. There are even frickin' prose portions of this book that read like something out of Beowulf. You can't get more classic than this title right now. You just can't. Elson, the artist, he's alright, but I actually really miss Doug Braithwaite, the artist from last month. By comparison, Elson just really feels average. Now here's the thing. When J. Michael Straczynski left Thor, many people thought Gillen wouldn't be able to pull it off, including me. Hadn't really heard of him, hadn't really been impressed with anything, didn't think he was going to amount to much. Now, with Matt Fraction, a big name, coming aboard in October, I'm going to really miss Gillen. I cannot wait for the conclusion of this story. It's just that good. So there you go, guys. 4 issues. Best of this week was the hands down Thor. I really, really think people need to be reading this book right now. It's so good. I'll be back tomorrow with 4 more issues. The last 4 for last week. I look forward to hearing from you guys. As always, please leave comments. Let me know what you thought. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.